Hi everybody, welcome to Knowledge Hub. So today we will be looking into one very important aspect of Foreign Exchange Management Act, and the topic is what property an NRI or OCI can buy in India. Okay, so an NRI or OCI may acquire a residential property and a commercial property. Two things it may acquire: a residential property and a commercial property. It cannot acquire an agricultural land, a farmhouse, and a plantation property. It cannot acquire agricultural land, farmhouse, and plantation property because it will go against the benefits of the poor farmers. So basically, you can acquire if you are an NRI or you are an OCI. I'll be talking in respect of NRI and OCI only. You can acquire residential property, you can acquire commercial property. You cannot acquire agricultural land, farmhouse, or plantation property. So basically, these three are absolutely prohibited. You can do nothing about it. You cannot buy agricultural land in India if you are an NRI. So if you want to buy a residential property, if you want to buy a commercial property, how payment must be made? First is payment must come from either a inward remittance through banking channels from abroad, or fund is permitted non-Indians account. So basically what it is trying to say is you have to pay through banks. This is what it is trying to say. It may either be a foreign bank, it may either be an Indian bank. You have to pay through banks. What is not allowed is travelers checks is not allowed. It is a type of check that the travelers used to carry. Foreign currency notes you cannot pay with. Cash is absolutely prohibited. Even 1 rupee of cash is prohibited under FEMA. Any mode not specifically permitted. Only two modes are permitted that we have discussed here. Otherwise, any other payment is prohibited. So this is what I have explained. Even 1 rupee paid in cash is a FEMA violation. Don't do it. Now, if you want to gift somebody, if you want to gift a property to somebody, you are an NRI or an OCI card holder, you want to gift somebody a property, an NRI or OCI may receive property as gift. Now, this clause is about receiving property. Okay, this is very important. A lot of transactions happen just to save tax or just to uh, protect the properties from authorities, from the scrutiny of authorities. People do this. An NRI oblique OCI may receive property as a gift provided property is not agricultural, farmhouse, or plantation. This is what we have learned. Obviously, you cannot sell, you cannot buy, you cannot gift agricultural property. This has an exception, but as for now, let us for time being understand this fact that NRI or OCI may receive property as a gift provided property is not agricultural, it is not a farmhouse, it is not a plantation property, and it may receive a gift provided the gift is from resident Indian, an NRI, or an OCI. So NRI or an OCI may receive gift from an Indian resident, from an NRI, or from an OCI. Secondly, whosoever is gifting, whosoever is the donor, he must be a relative of the donee, whosoever is getting the gift. Now, what is a relative? If you want to know the definition of relative, you have to read the Companies Act. If I get time, I will make a short video on that also. Who exactly is a relative according to Companies Act and how are those provisions applied in FEMA. But as of now, you don't need to go into that much detail. You just need to understand that the donor must be a relative. Now, what about if you are getting a property in inheritance? If you are getting that property in a will, you are an NRI, you are an OCI card holder, and if you are getting a property in inheritance, what will happen then? An NRI oblique OCI may acquire any immovable property, including agricultural land, by inheritance from a resident Indian or a person resident outside India who had legally acquired property. So this is the one of the biggest exception of Foreign Exchange Management Act. All the NRIs and all the OCIs who are watching this video, they must understand this thing. You cannot acquire an agricultural property. You can only acquire an agricultural property if you have inherited it. Inheritance can be from a resident Indian or a person resident outside India who had legally acquired the property. So property must be legally acquired. Another is, this is what I have told you, inheritance is an exception to agricultural land restriction. Now, sale or gift of a property by NRI oblique OCI. Earlier we have seen that the NRI on OCI or OCI was a donee, he was giving the gift, he was taking the gift. Now in this case we will be seeing when he is selling the property, when he is gifting the property to somebody else, then what will happen? No. So first thing is transfer to resident Indian. If you are transferring any property to a resident Indian, transferring herein means if you are selling that property or if you are gifting that property. So if you are selling or gifting that property to a resident Indian, then it is allowed for any property. It may be agricultural, it may be commercial, it may be residential. It is allowed for every property because you are giving it to a resident Indian. Now, if you are giving it to another NRI or OCI, then if you'll use your common sense, you must be very aware now that commercial properties, residential properties you can give, but agricultural properties, see again, agricultural land, farmhouse, plantation cannot be transferred to an NRI or an OCI holders. The idea behind is the Indian government, will not harm the farmers. They will not make any laws that are in direct contravention to the interest of the farmers and to the disinterest of the farmers or to the disinterest of their land. The government will never rip the farmers of the land. So joint purchase with a spouse. These two things we have said. Now joint purchase with a spouse. Now we'll go into the very practical aspects. Now you see these are two couples with a heart in between. Who is covered? Spouse is a resident outside India. Spouse is not an NRI or OCI, and she is married to an NRI or an OCI. Basically, if the spouse is falling in one of the three aspects, that is, spouse is resident outside India, or she is not an NRI or an OCI, or she is married to an NRI or an OCI, then what is allowed? Such spouse may jointly acquire one immovable property. She can jointly acquire one immovable property, and the property must be residential or commercial. It cannot be agricultural, and we have seen that. So the best thing to notice here is she can jointly acquire one immovable property, not singly, jointly. Whatever property she will acquire, the husband or the wife, both will have at least some share in it. Now, how are the payments made? Basically, this we have seen. Payment must be made from inward remittance or a non-resident account. No cash, traveler's check or foreign currency notes are allowed. This we have seen. Now, marriage condition is obviously marriage should be registered and it should have been lasted for at least 2 years. So these are things we have seen, and the last clause that I have written is spouse must not be otherwise prohibited under any law. So if in any personal law, if the spouse is prohibited from holding a property and all those things, that law will prevail. Okay, so we have seen how and what type of property can an NRI or an OCI card holder may acquire, may hold, may gift, may sell. This all we have seen. I hope it will be of some help to you. Keep watching. Thank you and have a nice day.